Welcome back to Learning to Code on the Cloud. This is topic 3. We're going to talk about strings. First, I want to spend a few minutes reviewing the things we covered in topic 2, which focus on list and loop. So, list value in Python is represented using a square bracket surrounded by a list of things that are separated by commas. And given a list, there are a number of functions and operators we can use. We can check whether an element is in the list. We can compute the length of the list, which is the number of items in the list. And then we can use the count function to compute how many times a particular value appear in the list. And we can use the append function to add something toward the end of the list. And for loops, we covered two kinds of loops, for loops and while loop. And for loop, one way is just something, a variable in a list. Another is a variable in a range. So the range will take either 1 or 2 or 3 numbers. So we've covered that, the meaning of that before. And we can also do a while loop. So while something is true, we'll be keep executing the body of the loop. And within loops, we can use the break and continue to change the control flow, meaning that to direct which line we should go next. So there are several important programming idioms using loops. So for example, if we want to compute the sum over something, we want to compute the bunch of value added up, then we will initialize the value to 0. Then we will be looping through all the value. And then we will use this sum plus equal value, which is the same as the sum equals sum plus value. So the loop can be either while or for, whichever way is convenient. And oftentimes the code can be written in both ways. It's kind of up to one's preference. Another common idiom is if we want to count the number of times something happens. So for example, if we are counting the number of times an item appear in the list, we'll be doing something like this. So we initialize the count, the result, to be 0, and then we loop. And then inside the loop, there will be an if statement. We'll be checking whether this is whether this element is something we should be counting, whether this is something we should count. If it is, we will add 1 to the counter. So then this addition assignment is executed only when this is something that we want to count. So similarly, if you are summing up some of the values, not all of them, then you can also have an if statement here. So it will be similar usage. So also we can be trying to find when something happens. So this when typically will be represented by indices. This could be an index into a list to find out whether where the element first appears, if it appears, or it could be an integer. We find out the first I that satisfies some condition. So again, there will be an initialization of this value, and then we will be doing some looping, and we will exit the loop whenever we see whenever we see something actually happens. So again, here I'm using it's like a little bit pseudocode. So this end is good. It's not actually Python code. It's just meaning that if this is something we are looking for, then we can break. We exit the loop, and then this whatever the IND value stores will be the one we want. And of course, if we are using a for loop, then this variable inside the for, it's not assigned once we exit the loop. So we need to record that information if needed. And similarly, if we are trying to find either max or min, then we initialize the max value to be the smallest possible value, and then we loop over this. And then whenever we find something that's bigger than the current max, we will assign the current the max value to the current value. So we'll keep looking for anytime we see the bigger value, we'll keep that. So we always keep one value that is the current largest. Here we initialize this to be the smallest possible value, or just very, very small value, so that all the element will be bigger than that. So the moment we see the first element, this will become assigned to the first element. We can also assign this first element to this, assuming that we know at least one element exists. So that's also fine. So a common theme in these idioms when using loop is there is always a line to initialize the value. And then inside the loop, we will be updating that. And the updating may happen based on some condition. So like here, this max v, initialize, update when something happens. Initialize, yeah, so initialize, and this is always updated. But when something happens, we will actually break.